Welcome back to Math Maintenance. Let's talk rounding numbers. When we want to round numbers, we're always making a decision about whether we're rounding up or whether we're rounding down. So if we're rounding up, we're saying that the number that we're at is closer to the next number than it is to the previous number. Here's an easy example. If I'm thinking about 36 and I'm rounding in the tens spot, what I need to think about is if 36 is closer to 30 or closer to 40. I can make that decision by looking at the one spot and deciding if it's more than halfway or less than halfway. My halfway point between 30 and 40 is 35. So since 36 is past 35, I would round 36 up to 40. Sometimes we use rounding to make our math easier. Sometimes we use rounding to know answers to word problems. So for example, if it said that you could buy pies in sets of 10, if I want to make sure I have 36 pies to give away, how many should I buy? Well, if you only bought 30, you wouldn't have enough. If you buy 40, you have too many, but it allows you at least to get to 36. You always need to check with rounding to make sure that you're rounding the correct way. The usual rule of thumb is if it's past the midway point, we round up. If it's less than the midway point, we round down. But on things like that word problem I just said, even if it was just 31 pies we needed and we had to buy them 10 at a time, we'd still have to round up to 40. So rounding is specific to different scenarios to think about whether you round up or whether you round down. We're going to do a couple practice problems today just with the general idea of rounding. So we're going to use that rule of rounding up if it's 5 or more and rounding down if it's less than 5. So if I use the number 6,823, I want to know what that number is if I round to the 10 spot, if I round to the 100 spot, and if I round to the 1,000 spot. Let's start with the 10 spot. When I'm looking at the 10 spot, I'm only considering what's to the right of that place. The 6 and the 8 are automatically going to stay. Those aren't going to change. I'm considering the 10 spot and the 1 spot. The decision that I'm trying to make is 23 closer to 20 or closer to 30? With my halfway point being 25, 23 is less than 25, so I would say that when I round to the 10 spot for this number, my answer is 6,820. If instead of rounding to the 10 spot, I want to round to the 100 spot, I now need to consider the two numbers that come after that. The 6 is going to go untouched. And now what I need to determine is 823 closer to 800 or closer to 900? The halfway point between 800 and 900 is 850. 823 is less than 850. So I would say that when I round to the 100 spot, my answer is 6,800. Notice that whatever spot I'm rounding to, so here I was rounding to the tens, everything after the 10 spot ends up being a 0 because I've rounded it either up or I've rounded it down. Same thing here. When I round to the 100 spot, everything after the 100 spot ends up being a 0, in this case because I've rounded it down. Last one to try with this number is if I want to round to the 1,000 spot, I'm going to take a look at the 6, and then I check everything after that to determine, is this number closer to 6,000 or is the number closer to 7,000? My midway point in between those is 6,500. 823 is more than 6,500. So I would round this number up and say that when I round 6,823 to the thousand spot, it's 7,000. Remembering that the only place there's going to be numbers is in the thousand, and everything after that is going to be zeros. Today, for your work time, you have a sheet in your packet called Summer Roundup. You're going to go through each of the numbers listed and then say, just like we just did on the board, what is that number if you round it to the 10 spot? What is that number if you round it to the 100 spot? What is that number if you round it to the 1,000 spot? For your digital practice, you have all sorts of rounding sites to choose from. So when you follow that one link on Google Classroom, you're going to see that I think there's 10 different rounding games that you can choose which one you want to play and which skills you want to practice. Your manipulative activity today is to choose from those big number cards, and once you choose them, practice rounding them to the tens and to the 100 spots. Good luck practicing your rounding skills. It comes in use all the time.